last week we were doing the 5 hindrances, the kind of like what not to do. So this time we're doing the 7 factors of awakening, which is the thing to do. You will notice also there is a very large overlap with a certain other part of the Buddhist teaching, and I'm hoping you guys will grab it before I point it out. So, yeah. passage that we're going to start out with, and here's where I want you guys to try and piece out what one or perhaps two things that I've talked about a number of times before really kind of stick out as like, this is what this is connected to. Even though it doesn't actually say that, there are really strong parallels. So I want you guys to kind of use your thinking caps as we're going through this and be like, okay, that kind of sounds like this, maybe like, yeah. So, at Savatthi, the Buddha said, bhikkhus, monks, based on the Himalayas, the king of the mountains, the Nagas nurture their bodies and acquire strength. When they have nurtured their bodies and acquired strength, they then enter the pools. From the pools they enter the lakes, then the streams, then the rivers, and finally they enter the ocean. There they achieve greatness and expansiveness of body. So too bhikkhus, so too monks, based on virtue, established on virtue, a monk develops and cultivates the 7 factors of enlightenment, and thereby he achieves greatness and expansiveness in wholesome states. And how does a monk based on virtue, established on virtue, develop the 7 factors of enlightenment? Here, a monk develops the enlightenment factor of mindfulness, which is based on seclusion, dispassion, cessation, maturing and release. He develops the enlightenment factor of investigation. Sometimes people say this is like discernment or discrimination based on states, depending on who's doing the translating. I find investigation to be the more meaningful way of looking at it. So we're going to do investigation. He develops the enlightenment factor of energy. He develops the enlightenment factor of rapture or joy. He develops the enlightenment factor of tranquility. He develops the enlightenment factor of concentration. He develops the enlightenment factor of equanimity, which is based on seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, maturing and release. It is in this way, monks, that a monk based on virtue, established on virtue, develops the 7 factors of enlightenment, and thereby achieves greatness and expansiveness in wholesome states. So that's kind of the start, that is the start of the chapter on the 7 factors, the factors of enlightenment. So what am I looking to draw parallel to here? You want me to name them off again? Just so you can kind of, okay. Investigation, energy, joy, mindfulness, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. What does that sound a lot like? There's a whole, the which?
The Eightfold Path.
Okay, I can see it. That wasn't quite what I was going for, but I can fully see it, yeah. It's about half that number that I'm usually talking about.
4 milligrams.
Can we think of anything that would have joy, equanimity? Not quite, but yeah, you could definitely kind of like shoehorn those in there too. See, that's the whole point of this, is all of these things kind of connect, right? They may not necessarily be like exact parallels, but they do connect. What we're really kind of going for here is that these are a nice little parallel to the 4 divine bows, the 4 Brahma Viharas, right? Equanimity, altruistic joy, loving kindness, and compassion. Right? You can kind of see where those dovetail pretty nicely between the two, right? And there's a lot of talk of if you're practicing the 7 factors, or if you're kind of like working on the 7 factors and contemplating the 7 factors of enlightenment, you're also at the same time really developing the 4 divine abodes, and like we kind of sussed out, you can also see that there's a connection there with the paramitas. There's connections there with different parts of the Eightfold Noble Path. You can connect just about all of this stuff, and as you're doing that, you're practicing the Buddha. You're living the Buddha's teachings, and that's how you're going about getting towards enlightenment. That's the whole point there, is that those are the factors that are going to lead you there, right? So if you have connections between that and some of the other teachings, hey, great, right? You're just adding, you're supporting, right? You're what would we use in military terms here? You're kind of like, you're the attacking force and you're being supported by another flank of, another flank on this side, another flank on this side, and you're all kind of moving towards that objective, right? So you have all of these different forces, all of these different states coming together to get you to the goal. And that's a really powerful thing when we think about it, because that, if we have all of those connections that are helping us along the path, if we have all of those different teachings, all of these different practices that we can practice, that we can live in our daily lives, that are going to help us towards that goal, we have a roadmap, right? We have a nice little roadmap there. In fact, you could probably even sit there and put like waypoint investigation, waypoint energy, waypoint joy, waypoint mindfulness, right? And your RP is enlightenment. Does it work? Maybe. Right? So we have us a roadmap, and we have all kinds of, we know where when we're on this roadmap, we know where there's a resupply point here, there's a resupply point here, and we keep moving along, and as we get closer, we have more resources, and we keep going, and we get to that goal based on the practice that we do, based on the work that we put in, right? Based on how we are walking the path. And as we sit there and walk the path, that's on us, right? We can stop any time, right? We're just not going to get to the goal if we stop. Totally our choice. But who wants to not get to the goal? I think all of us want to, like, eventually, maybe even if we can't get it, like, in this lifetime, like, in this body right now, we would like to get to that goal at some point. That'd be a good thing, right? So, the 7 factors of awakening, then, are things, yes, they require us to think about them, but they also require us to do, right? That they require us to take action towards these things, right? So as we're going about this, right, you have to practice joy, you have to practice investigation of phenomena, investigation of mental states, investigation of whatever goes on when you're meditating, right? You have to go through and put energy towards that. Now, the other thing that I kind of wanted to do today is I kind of wanted to go through the hindrances and see, okay, well, how did these stack up? Because there's 5 hindrances, but 7 factors of awakening. So, where do they connect? Right? And so I kind of, we're going to go through and I'm going to kind of list off the hindrances, and then I want us to have kind of like a little thought, a little contemplation, maybe a little investigation, based on those and based on the factors, and see where they connect, or where one might kind of bounce off the other one. And there are all kinds of different ways of systematizing which one is the antithesis of this one and that one. Yeah. Okay, so since we talked hindrances last week, we're going to start with the hindrances, and then we're going to do the factors and try and like piece out which one goes where, puzzle style. So, for the hindrances, the first one is sensual desires. Okay, wonder where that would connect. The second one is ill will. The third one is sloth and torpor, being really lethargic. The fourth one is restlessness and remorse. And the fifth one is doubt. So, sensual desires, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse, and doubt. That's what we have on one side. All right? On the other side, we have investigation, energy, joy, mindfulness, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. Okay. Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. What are you seeing?
Concentration. And I guess you call mindfulness that parallels restlessness and remorse.
Okay.
Not parallel. Yeah.
So tranquility and you said equanimity, or tranquility and
Mindfulness.
okay, tranquility and mindfulness kind of like balance out the restlessness and remorse. Sure. Okay. What do we think might kind of balance out sloth and torpor? Being lethargic. Okay, yeah. Some people would also throw joy on there, right? Because if you have all kinds of joy and you have all kinds of energy, right? Think of it like perhaps a very curious child, right? So if you have a curious child, you know that they're going to be bouncing off everything, trying to figure out what's going on. You could also throw the investigation in there as well. So investigation, joy, and energy, all three of those. Kind of like fighting off sloth and torpor, because sloth and torpor is just like, okay, well, I'm lethargic, I don't want to do anything. But if you have energy, you're trying to investigate things, and you're curious, and you have that joy, you can look at it like, yes, this is a thing I want to explore. Let's go explore it. Right?
Your motivation to be active.
Yeah, you're motivated. You want to go do this thing, yeah. Rather than not wanting to do it, which is what sloth and torpor is all about. Yeah.
You're also with sloth and trying to prevent yourself from doing something. Whereas your investigation wants you to go do something.
Okay.
So you're curious, so you're trying to seek it out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What about the other three? So we figured out that, or we kind of like pieced out how restlessness and remorse and sloth and torpor kind of were balanced out. What about doubt? How do we balance out doubt with the 7 factors?
We have 3 investigation.
So we have doubt on one hand. Would it be investigation? Would it be energy? Would it be joy? Would it be mindfulness? Would it be tranquility? Would it be concentration? Would it be equanimity? How do we balance?
Think investigation.
Investigation balances out doubt?
I would argue tranquility. Because if you're tranquil with yourself, why would you doubt yourself? I think if you're peace with yourself. Because investigation, I feel like, is your curiosity of what you do is wrong, which is then self-doubt, right? So,
Not so much, because you just have to investigate, but once you think about it, and it's like, oh, okay. And it kind of leads you to be more
maybe
peaceful.
build self-confidence instead.
Yeah, so it can be more.
The fun part about this is there's no right
No
answer.
right answer.
Yeah.
So you can come up with an answer, you can come up with an answer, and I don't know, maybe they're both right. I can come up with another answer, maybe all three are right, who knows, right? What about ill will? What do you think? Which of those balances out ill will?
Joy.
Joy? Okay, all right.
You know which.
What about equanimity? I know that's one that we like, it's one of the harder ones because people tend to not understand what equanimity is.
I would need to define the context.
So equanimity in the Buddhist context really comes down to the word itself is the English translation comes from the much older Latin roots for equal mind, equianimus, right? Equal mind, right? So you have an equal mind towards all these things, which in the Buddhist context really comes down to we're not going to sit there and judge these things. We're not going to sit there and like grasp at one side or the other. We're going to say this exists. They both exist. does that counteract ill will?
Yeah, because if you are actively wishing to ill will upon something, you're not letting it simply exist or coexist. You're going out of your way to be.
It's a my side versus their side thing, whereas equanimity says, no, there's no sides.
Just letting it happen.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
Interesting. Now the fun hard one. Which of these, like what, how do we balance out, if the factors of enlightenment are balancing out the hindrances, how do we balance out sensual desire? Like which of these ones is going to do anything for, like to stop sensual desire? There is one that I think is probably closer to a right answer than others, but that's my idea.
Tranquility.
Okay.
Concentration was one, right?
Concentration is one, yeah.
I think maybe concentration.
And, okay, so I can see where you're going with that because the Buddha did constantly talk about one of the easy ways to kind of like block off sensual desire is to concentrate on the more disgusting things in the human body, right? That human body, this human body, that human body, those human bodies, they all have bile, they all have pus, they all have, you know, stomach acids. Is that sensually attractive? No. Right? And you think, okay, well, that human being and this human being, we both have stomach acid sitting there churning up our food. Yum! It does kind of take a little bit of the edge off of like, oh yeah, that one's a hottie, right? Or whatever. It really kind of does, right? So concentration, yeah, might be a really good one to kind of like counteract that. I would argue that mindfulness probably also factors into that. Mindfulness and concentration, put the both of those two together, and you get the anti-sensual desires. At least as far as I see it.
Yeah, I can see that.
I could be wrong. Like I'm not going to say there's any default, like there is a right answer. I'm going to say like, as we investigate this for ourselves, we come closer to that, and we kind of figure how that might work. And that's the whole point of investigation, right? We're going to go in, we're going to explore, we're going to look at it, we're going to say, okay, does this work or does it not?
But that's why I kept writing with the tranquility as the answer, because if you're truly like at peace with yourself, you know, what do you have left inside?
Yeah.
It's kind of my mentality. It's kind of like my free fall answer.
Right, I know. I did hear you mention that a few times, and I'm not denying that, right? Because that is also part of the thing, right? And maybe every single one of them, maybe every single one of the factors of enlightenment is a counteraction on one or more of the hindrances, maybe all of them, right? Maybe doing all 7 counteracts all 5.
I think you have 2 additional ones, because I feel like dealing with negativity will always be harder than handling positivity. Because there's so much suffering alone. Sometimes you need just a little bit of extra help with extra too.
Yeah, from just a pure basic evolutionary like survival instinct thing, we are primed as creatures that wanted to continue to exist. We are primed to find those negative things first and to glomp onto them. So yeah, we do have to have more positive things to counteract or balance out the negative ones, right? So that as we're going through these, we can sit there and say, I have enough support, I have enough ammo, right? Or if we're talking about it in terms of military and combat stuff, I have enough ammo to go and confront this enemy, and I'm going to win, right? Because I have enough, right? I have more of these things, right? I have more supplies, I have more personnel, I have more, support, I have more vehicles, I have more whatever it is, right? So we go into battle with, or we go into like combat with ourselves, right? Mentally, we're engaging in this. And as we do that, if we have more resources behind us, we can do a better job of attacking the problem, of approaching the problem and finding a way to work past it, to defeat it. A couple of weeks ago, I brought up one of the Buddha's talks, looking at how he looked at it literally in terms of battle, right? And this is every time that a monk goes into mental battle against Mara. Of course, it's Mara, right? Why wouldn't it be? The devas hear some kind of sound going off, right? Every time that a monk goes in and defeats Mara, right? That's another sound, right? There are 3 different times when these devas hear this sound. When monks like step on the path, when monks start doing battle with Mara, and then when monks defeat Mara, right? When you've defeated Mara, you've reached that goal. This is us. These factors, those are our tools in that battle. So as we go through and we battle and we combat Mara and the forces really of ourselves and the forces that we need to fight to get to enlightenment, we need those resources, and those are the resources that we have, right? That's our roadmap, that's our ammo, that's our, all of our supplies. And as we go through and we use those, as we practice those, we get better at doing that combat. We get better at, whatever Mara might be throwing at us, we get better at fighting that off. We get better and stronger in our practice. And that's really the benefit of doing this. It's not so much like, yeah, there's 7, like we can memorize all 7, great, cool. But if we're not practicing them, what's the point? If we're not trying deliberately to put these 7 factors against the hindrances in that combat, like we're kind of wasting time, right? Does that make sense? So, yeah, the 7 factors of awakening, or the 7 factors of enlightenment, they are a very fun kind of topic to go through. And I'm pretty sure that was kind of all that I really kind of wanted to go over, unless you guys have questions or comments. Okay, in which case, we're going to close out the Dharma talk for the day.